Hola chicos, it's Señora Bayless. Hopefully you guys are doing good. So today I wanted to basically just go over the notes that I just put up for you guys. And so these notes are not going to take very long. They're actually 1 page and should be pretty short as you're copying them while I'm going through them. So you have one of two choices: copy them down after I go through them and you watch this video, or maybe before, so that you can maybe think of some of the things that you might want to ask questions about on the day we have Zoom this week. So the essential question is, how do you form the verb jugar to talk about playing sports? And so the verb jugar is a verb that you have seen in the past. It is a verb that you may remember using to talk about playing sports in the first few units that we covered. And so what's important about it is that you used it to say, you used it as an infinitive. You never really conjugated it. You always said, me gusta jugar fútbol, me gusta jugar softball, or me gusta jugar videojuegos. So that was really the way you used it. You never really conjugated it. And so we're going to jump ahead. So I don't know if you noticed when you had to do the vocabulary for this section that you jumped to 6.1. That would be Unit 6, Lesson 1. And the reason for that is because that's where they throw the verb jugar. And so I wanted to make sure that you understood that this one verb is a stem changing verb. And since we just got through learning stem changing verbs, I wanted to make sure that you learned them all together. So when we're done with the verb jugar, we're going to then move on to Unit 5, Lesson 1. Okay, so don't get confused if we are going forward and then going back again. It's just because I feel like this verb really should be with the other stem changing verbs. Okay, so first thing I'm going to start with is, what are two important characteristics of jugar? And so the first one is that it is a stem changing verb. So that's the one thing that we can remember about it. And then the second thing, which is actually the easiest part of the verb, is that it is the only U to the UE stem changer in the language. That means that you'll see other verbs that have a U and you're going to confuse yourself and say, oh, is this one that changes as far as the stem? Nope, it doesn't. This is the only verb that you need to worry about being a stem changer in this particular instance. So jugar is the only one, again, try to remember that changes from a U to the UE, and that's the only one in this language. Okay, so I'm going to quickly just review some of the stem changing verbs that we've learned over the course of this semester. Let's start with the E to the IE. And so E to the IE verbs that you might remember are the verb querer and pensar. Querer means to want, pensar means to think. Okay? Okay, sorry about that. I had to go plug in my charger. So the O to the UE was the second set of stem changing verbs that we learned, and the most common ones that are used are dormir, which means to sleep, or poder, which means to be able to or to be empowered to. So those again are verbs that you guys were tested on. You guys took a stem changing verb quiz on, and so those are verbs you should be somewhat familiar with. And if for some reason when you move on to Spanish 2 you're a little concerned that you're not going to recognize them, we'll just quickly review them again in Spanish 2, and then over time as you write more you're going to get comfortable with them and they'll start to come back to you. Okay, or you can always come back to these notes and then say, oh, I took good notes on this. Then we had the E to the I verbs, which were the ones that I did do a YouTube video for a while back. And Unfortunately, we didn't do these in class, but we were able to look at them, and I did a video so you guys can see. And we had a Zoom session where we were able to go over a couple of examples. So those are verbs like to ask for or to order, which would be pedir, or to serve, which is servir. Okay, so again, those are verbs that go from an E to the I. Very easy. It's the E, which is, from right to left, the first one. Okay? Now, let's look at the verb jugar. So the question here to your left says, does jugar follow the same rules as stem changing verbs? As all stem changing verbs? Of course it does. It's similar. It's a stem changing verb. So it's going to have the same rules. And so just like the other stem changing verbs, the U to the UE changes in all the other forms like yo, tú, él, ella, ellos, ellas, ustedes, except nosotros and vosotros. So same as all the other verbs. And remember, I told you, if you guys spelled it wrong on your verb quizzes, I was going to mark you down. So that was a good way for you guys to remember that in the nosotros and vosotros, it does not change. There's no stem changing. It just stays as the same as in the infinitive. All right, so let's take a look at jugar. Super easy. Yo juego, tú juegas, él, ella, usted juega, or Mario juega, nosotros jugamos, not juegamos. See how I actually put no changing with exclamation marks? Vosotros jugáis. Again, no changing. And then ellos, ellas, ustedes, it does change, and that's why I highlighted it so you guys could see that. And that's juegan. All right. Very important. Again, you know AR endings. It's O, AS, A, AMOS, AN for your AR verbs. Normal, just like any other verb. You don't need to worry about different endings and irregular verbs that, are all over the place. So that's the good part. So one thing to help you remember is that if you don't change the stem, for example, in the yo form, you're going to notice that you're writing down I and then the word juice, because jugo means juice, if you remember from the first few units. And even when we were in the food unit, jugo de naranja, jugo de manzana means first one was jugo de naranja, which means orange juice, or jugo de manzana, which means apple juice. And so that's how you spell juice, the actual word juice, J-U-G-O. And so remember, it's phonetic. It sounded out that way. So in order to get the jugo, it's just jugo, as opposed to juego, which means I play. So that's why it's important to remember that it does have a stem change. And so another important rule about the verb jugar is, how do you use jugar with the name of a sport? Now, in the past, you've actually used it in order to say you like a sport. So you never had to conjugate it. So you always said, me gusta jugar al fútbol. Me gusta jugar al softball, or el softball. So in this case, when you're actually using the verb and you're conjugating it, you're actually going to use a plus the definite article. I almost said indefinite. The definite article. And then you notice that it becomes a contraction because EL and A put together make a contraction which equals al. So it sounds funny if I translate it in English, because you'll hear my brother plays the football. And I know it sounds weird, but it actually is correct grammatically when you listen to it in Spanish. So sometimes you'll hear individuals that will add words like the where they don't need to be. And that's part of the reason, because sometimes they'll add the in certain places that in English, once you translate, it doesn't have the word the in there. But Just remember that when you're saying it in Spanish, you need to use the a and then el, which is the definite article, and then whatever the sport is. Now, if the sport is la, then you don't do that. It would just be a la. And so in this case, because most of the sports that you are going to see are usually start with el, most of them seem to start with something well, they're mostly masculine. In this case, you're going to be using al more often than a la. Okay, so make sure you have questions written down if there's something that confuses you. And on the day we have Zoom, I would open it up for any questions you have. I'll have this screen up so you guys can see it, and then we'll be doing the activities that from the assignments that I have posted on Google Classroom. But other than that, that's it. We just learned one verb named jugar. It is, like I said, the only stem changing verb that goes from a U to the UE. And you guys are experts already at stem changing verbs, so I believe that this is just probably a little easy walk in the park to just go ahead and do the assignments I have assigned to you. All right, chicos, take care. I will see you on the next session of Zoom.